All right, good morning, everybody. Batten down the hatches and pay careful attention. This is Investigation 2. We're starting to talk about fractions, specifically halves, fourths, and tenths. So let's see what we got going on. So to start off with, a fraction is a special type of number used to describe part of a whole, something less than 1. And you use two numbers to write a fraction. The bottom number, called the denominator, shows the total number of equal parts, where the top number, that we call the numerator, shows how many of the equal parts are being counted. Like, for example, I gave you 1/4. 1 is the numerator, 4 is the denominator. And you might have seen this trick somewhere down the line. Teachers up here in North Dakota love to do it. North Dakota, ND, numerator, denominator. So if they went and asked you a question like, what fraction of the circles are red? We have one red circle. So 1 is our numerator. We have 4 total equal size circles. So 4 is the denominator. And we read fractions from top to bottom. Like this guy, that's 1/2. Or sometimes you just say half. 1/4. Or sometimes people say 1/4. Or 3/4. Or 3/4. This would be 1/10. And there's also other ways used to describe parts of a whole besides fractions. We're going to be talking more of that later in the one-on-one portion of the investigation. You can also describe a part of a whole as a decimal or as a percent. In this video, we're mainly talking about fractions. Here is 1/2. But the same piece could be represented as a decimal, 0.5. He's actually pronounced 5/10, and we'll get into that later. Or as a percent, it's 50%. And like I said, when we get into the teacher-led portion, I'll be talking a lot more about that. So to find a fractional amount of a group, if the numerator is 1, all you have to do is divide by the denominator. You're going to hear me say that a whole lot this year. If the numerator is 1, divide by the denominator. So they might ask you a question like this. What is 1/2 of 18? Maybe you can do that mentally. Maybe you can draw out 18 little circles and find half. But the easiest way is if the numerator is 1 and the denominator is 2, all you have to do is divide by the denominator. Now, we learned a few lessons ago that multiplication and division are inverse operations. You really need to get your multiplication facts down pat. You want to think, what times 2 equals 18. Maybe you could draw out 18 little circles, but that's going to take a long time. And you're really going to have to make sure that you have your facts memorized. We can see right here that half of 18 would be 9, but the easiest way is to get your facts memorized. What times 2 equals 18? That answer would be 9. So half of 18 is 9. You just have to divide by the denominator when the numerator is 1. And a few people still are fuzzy about this if you don't have your facts all memorized. Go ahead and look on your multiplication chart in your agendas or in your math folder. You start off by looking in the row you're dividing by. We were dividing by 2, so I want to look in the 2 row. You go and find the answer you're dividing. I'm dividing 18, and then go straight up to find your quotient, just what we said on that other page. 18 divided by 2 is 9, because 9 times 2 is 18. So to find a fractional amount of a group, if the numerator is 1, again, divide by the denominator. Here they're asking us, what is 1/4 of 16? The numerator is 1, so just divide by the denominator. Divide by 4. 16 divided by 4. Yeah, you could draw out 16 little circles, put them in groups of 4, and 16 divided by 4 is 4, but you have to get your facts memorized. 4 times 4 is 16. But again, if you are fuzzy, go ahead and use your multiplication chart. We're dividing by 4, so you want to look in your 4 row. The number we're dividing is 16, so go straight up to find the quotient. Again, 16 divided by 4 was 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. So you want to use this strategy when you're reading story problems. For example, here it says 1/4 of the 20 students were girls. How many of the students were girls? So you got to think 1/4 of 20 kids in the class. Again, if the numerator is 1, divide by the denominator, 20, because there were 20 kids in the class. 1/4 were girls, so I'm going to divide by 4 because the numerator was 1. 20 divided by 4, hey, that is 5, because 5 times 4 equals 20. So maybe they'll apply it to some money problems, like how many cents is 1/4 of a dollar? And you got to think that coins are fractional parts of a dollar. Yes, your multiplication chart doesn't go up to 100, but I haven't met too many 5th graders who can't tell me that there's 4 quarters in one whole dollar. So if the numerator is 1, divide by the denominator. But you can't go and divide 1. You got to think of this dollar as 100 cents. So 100 cents divided by 4, if you were going to divide that dollar into 4 equal pieces, it would be 25 cents, right? But what happens if the numerator is not 1? You still always start off by divide by the denominator. But then you got to multiply that product by the numerator. So if they went and asked you how many cents is 3/4 of a dollar, start off dividing by the denominator. 100 cents divided by 4, yeah, that's 25 cents. We did that on the other page, right? But then multiply that product by the numerator. You take your 25 cents. My numerator is not 1 this time, is it? It's 3. So 1/4 was 25 cents. But 3/4 of a dollar would be 3/4. You got to take the 25 cents and multiply it by 3, giving you a total of 75 cents. You still divide by the denominator, but if the numerator's not 1, you have to multiply that by the numerator. So We're going to use the information below to answer problems 1 through 4. We'll see more like this when we get into the teacher-led portion of the investigation. But they're going to ask you problems like this on your lessons every day for months now. There are 40 pumpkins in the garden. 1/4 of the pumpkins were too small. 1/10 were too large. 1/2 were just the right size. The rest of the pumpkins were not yet ripe. And if you notice, I kind of went and color-coded it for you. In the book, it's going to be black and white. But the idea stays the same. We want to find each sentence that applies to the question. Here they're asking us how many of the pumpkins were too small. Well, it said 1/4 of the 40 pumpkins were too small. So you got to think of it, 1/4 of 40 pumpkins. That's what it said up there, right? I have 40 total pumpkins and 1/4 were too small. If the numerator is 1, divide by the denominator. So you're going to have to go and set it up dividing by the denominator. 40 total pumpkins divided by a denominator of 4. What times 4 equals 40? Well, that answer should be 10 pumpkins, right? Let's go and try another one down here. How many of the pumpkins were too large? Well, it told us here that 1/10 of the pumpkins, 1/10 of 40, were too large. So you got to think, 1/10 of 40. If the numerator is 1, all you have to do is divide by the denominator, right? So now you got to think, I have 40 total pumpkins. 1/10 of them were too large. 40 divided by 10. What times 10 is going to give you 40? That answer would be 4. 4 times 10 equals 40. So 40 divided by 10 is 4. Let's try down here. How many of the pumpkins were just the right size? Well, it said 1/2 were just the right size. So start off by thinking 1/2 of 40. If the numerator is 1, again, just divide by the denominator. So now we got to go and think 40 divided by 2. 1/2 of 40. Well, let's do the old cover up the zero trick here. What's 1/2 of 4? Hopefully you know 1/2 of 4 is 2. So 1/2 of 40 would be 20. Check out this one. How many of the pumpkins were not yet ripe? They're not giving you a fraction for this sense. It just says the rest of the pumpkins were not yet ripe. The rest of the pumpkins. Well, how many pumpkins have I talked about so far? I have 10 that were too small, 4 more that were too large, and 20 more that were just the right size. If I added these guys all up, if I went 10 plus 4 plus 20, that's going to give me a total of 34 pumpkins, right? How many pumpkins did I start off with? I started off with 40. I have 34 spoken for already. 10 too small, 4 too large, and 20 just the right size. And I'm starting off with a total of 40 pumpkins. So if I want to find out what the rest of them were, that would have to be a subtraction problem, right? 40 minus 34. Can I start with 0 and take away 4? No, that is a borrowing problem. I cross 1 out of the 4, make that 3, and pay my neighbor 1. 10 minus 4 is 6. And I've spoken to a few people about this. Do you have to go 3 minus 3 equals 0? No. Don't go and start a whole number with a 0 because nothing is the same value as 0. So how many of the pumpkins were not yet ripe? The rest of the pumpkins were 6. Check out this one. During a hike, Sanjeev found that he could carry a pack 1/2 his weight for half a mile without resting. He could carry a pack 1/10 his weight for 2 miles without resting. Sanjeev weighs 100 pounds. Now I specifically left the text all black and white, but the concept remains the same. Here's our question. How heavy a pack could Sanjeev carry for half a mile without resting? Half a mile without resting is in this sentence right here, right? Sanjeev found that he could carry a pack half his weight for half a mile without resting. Here is our fraction, 1/2 his weight. Well, we got to go down to the third sentence to find out that Sanjeev weighs 100 pounds. So you got to think, 1/2 of 100 pounds. If the numerator's 1, all you got to do is divide by the denominator. 100 divided by 2 equals what? Well, division and multiplication are inverse operations. What times 2 equals 100? If you still can't figure that out, do the cover up the 0 trick. I know a multiplication chart doesn't go up to 100, but you can find 10 divided by 2. If you just figured out what 10 divided by 2 is, well, that's 5. So 100 divided by 2, just put in your extra 0. So 100 divided by 2 would be 50. Let's try it again here. Same question. During the hike, Sanjeev found that he could carry a pack half his weight for half a mile without resting. He could carry a pack 1/10 his weight for 2 miles without resting. And Sanjeev still is weighing in at 100 pounds. He hasn't gained any weight yet. So how heavy a pack could Sanjeev carry for 2 miles without resting? 2 miles without resting is right here in this sentence. So what does it say about it? He could carry a pack 1/10 his weight for 2 miles without resting. So you got to go ahead and think 1/10 of 100 pounds. If the numerator's 1, all we have to do is divide by the denominator. So now we got to think of it as 100 divided by 10. What times 10 is 100? If you don't know, look in your multiplication chart in your 10 row, find 100 and take it straight up, and it will tell you 10 times 10 equals 100. But it's imperative that we get our multiplication facts memorized. So we're going to see lots of problems in the upcoming week about this. How much money is 1/10 of a dollar? Remember, $1 equals 100 cents. So you can't really think of 1/10 of 1. You got to think of it as 1/10 of 100 cents. 1/10 of 100 if the numerator is 1, divide by the denominator. Hey, didn't we just do this on the other page? What is 100 divided by 10? What times 10 equals 100? Well, we already figured this out. It was 10, right? One extra little thing though, it is 10 cents because it is a money problem, so they want it labeled. 100 cents divided by 10 is 10 cents. So how much money is 3/10 of a dollar? Remember, if the numerator isn't 1, you start off by dividing by the denominator, but then you gotta multiply the quotient by the numerator. We found out over here that 1/10 of a dollar is 10 cents. So 3/10 of a dollar, you would have to take 10 cents, which is 1/10 of a dollar, and multiply that by the numerator. 10 cents is 1/10 of a dollar, but I have 3 of them, 3 groups of 10 cents, and that would give us 30 cents. 10 cents times 3 for the numerator is 30 cents. Check out this one. How much is 3/4 of a dollar plus 3/10 of a dollar? Well, start off by dividing by the denominator, right? We talked about a problem like this a few pages up. 100 cents divided by 4. If you had a dollar and you're going to split it equally with 4 people, what times 4 is 100 cents? Hey, that's 25 cents. So 1/4 of a dollar is 25 cents, but that's not what they're asking for. They're asking for what 3/4 of a dollar is. So now I take that 25 cents and I gotta multiply that by the numerator. 25 cents is 1/4 of a dollar, times that by the numerator of 3. So 3/4 of a dollar is 75 cents. I bet you we can use the information over here. We just found out that 3/10 of a dollar was 30 cents, right? Because 1/10 was 10 cents times the numerator of 3. 3/10 of a dollar, we already did this, was 30 cents. 3/4 of a dollar, we said, was 75 cents. 3/10 of a dollar, we said, is 30 cents. You add these guys together and you end up with 105. But would you say 105 cents, or is it time to get rid of the cent sign and put in a dollar sign and a decimal point? $1.05. So check this out. What is 1/4 of 36? Again, if the numerator is 1, all you have to do is divide by the denominator. So you got to think. 36 divided by 4. What times 4 gives you 36? Again, if you don't know, you can look on your multiplication chart in your agenda or your math folder, look in the 4 row, find 36, and go straight up to get the quotient. But you'll be a lot better off when you get your facts memorized, and you'll find out that 36 divided by 4 would be 9. So we can use this information to answer this. What is 3/4 of 36? Well, if 1/4 of 36 is 9, we just take the 1/4, and now we have to go and multiply it by the numerator. 9 times 3, hey, that's going to give us 27, right? So again, It is going to be a whole lot easier for you if you don't have your multiplication facts memorized. You want to be working on that. So that, my friends, is the end. You're definitely going to want a scratch piece of paper, probably a multiplication chart for your Socrative quiz, and good luck.